Hello guys, and welcome to this new episode of The Unexplainable. History as we know it is made up of names, dates, and major events. It's what we learned in school, read in books, seen in documentaries. It's an ordered sequence of facts, seemingly clear, linear. But what happens if we start to dig beneath the surface? If we move away from the spotlights focused on battles, on kings and empires, we begin to observe what lies hidden in the shadow. Because there's a side of history that few tell. A side made of silences, omissions, and uncomfortable truths. A side where documents disappear. Mysteriously, witnesses are silenced and events turn into legends, or worse yet, taboos. In this episode, I will take you on a journey through 4 historical mysteries that are rarely discussed, mysteries that perhaps should never have seen the light of day. These are not just simple curiosities or oddities from the past. We're talking about stories that challenge what we think we know, that could radically change our view of reality, if only we had the courage to face them. So here are 4 mysteries of history that no one has dared to tell. If we start digging beneath the disappearance of Percy Fawcett in the city of Zeta. We are in the Amazon rainforest, an endless expanse of green, humidity, and silence full of omens. It's 1920 and a man walks with a determined step among the ANA insects and mysteries. His name is Percy Harrison Fawcett, and he is one of the greatest British explorers of his time. But he's not there to hunt butterflies or catalog exotic species. Fawcett is obsessed with an idea, a lost city hidden in the pulsating heart of Brazil, a city that he himself has named with a simple letter Z. Percy Fawcett was anything but a naive dreamer. A former army officer, a professional cartographer, he had traveled for years in South America, tracing borders, climbing mountains, and wading through piranha-infested rivers. But during his research, Fawcett stumbled upon an ancient text known as Manuscript 512, kept in the National Library of Rio de Janeiro. The document, written by a Portuguese explorer in 1753, spoke of a city made of stones, temples, and gold-paved streets hidden among the fronds of the Amazon. For Fawcett, that text was the spark, the proof that an advanced civilization had thrived in the heart of the jungle long before the European colonizers. In 1925, with his son Jack and a trusted friend, he organized what would be his last expedition. Before leaving, he left precise instructions. No one was to look for them if they disappeared. Fawcett boasted solid experience in expeditions, always tackled with essential equipment and loads carried on the shoulder. For his new venture, he equipped himself with a full set of gear: canned food, condensed milk, weapons, rockets, a sextant, and a stopwatch, essential for determining latitude and longitude. His companions also carried everything personally. On April 20th, 1925, the expedition left from Cuiabá. In addition to Jack and Rimmel, the group also included 2 Brazilian workers, 2 horses, 8 mules, and 2 dogs. The last signal received from Fawcett dates back to May 29th of the same year. In a letter addressed to his wife, he communicated that he was ready to venture into unexplored territories with only Jack and Rimmel. According to the information, they had crossed the Xingu River, a southeastern tributary of the Rio delle Amazzoni. A final letter, written from a place called Dead Horse Camp, provided their location and conveyed a generally optimistic tone. But after this communication, the 3 men vanished into thin air. No bodies, no personal belongings, no trace. The disappearance of the explorer still remains one of the greatest mysteries of the 20th century. More than 100 expeditions were organized in the following years to find him, but each one of them came back empty-handed. In fact, some of them didn't return at all. Several local witnesses spoke of hostile tribes that could have killed the three explorers, but no concrete evidence was ever brought to light. In 1951, a certain Orlando Villas, Boas, he claimed to have discovered the explorer's fate, to have had the opportunity to speak in person with one of his killers, and to have received the explorer's bones from him. But his version was immediately questioned. There were economic interests involved that would have led Orlando to lie, and an analysis of the remains confirmed that they were not Fawcett's at all. Others, however, suggest something much more disturbing, that the explorer had found what he was looking for, an unknown city surviving for centuries without contact with the outside world. Some whispered theories, more than stated, speak of advanced civilizations, remnants of Atlantis, or even paranormal presences. Some say that Fawcett wanted to establish a utopian community and had voluntarily decided to disappear from modern civilization. Another hypothesis, even darker, is that he had discovered something that was not to be revealed. In the heart of the Amazon forest, there are entire areas still unexplored today. Modern technologies like light detection and ranging have only recently revealed the presence of ancient structures beneath the dense vegetation. Could it be that Fawcett had already intuited all of this a century ago? Is it possible that the city of Z was not just a myth? The question hangs in the air, like the mist among the trees. What really lies hidden in the Amazon jungle? And what mysteries was that explorer who disappeared into thin air trying to uncover? Perhaps the answer is still there, among intertwined branches, where history blurs with legend, and where only the bravest dare to venture. The mystery of Sumer and its script. Imagine walking among the dusty ruins of an ancient city buried by time. Every stone is a fragment of memory. Every carved relief is a message left by hands that lived millennia before us. It's a place where history whispers, but no one can truly decipher its language. Welcome to Sumer, not just an ancient civilization, but an enigma set in the heart of the Mesopotamian desert. Located between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now southern Iraq, Sumer is considered by historians to be the first true urban civilization in human history. It flourished around 3,500 before Christ, long before the pyramids of Egypt, before the Greek city-states, before the Chinese Empire. It was here, in this arid strip of land, that bureaucracy, mathematics, monumental architecture, and above all, writing were born. The Sumerians left it to us as a legacy: cuneiform writing, a complex, fascinating system of signs engraved on clay tablets with the aid of a pointed stylus. The shapes, triangular and linear, were arranged in sequences that could represent words, concepts, numbers, laws, stories. But although scholars have translated thousands of these tablets, a good part still remains obscure, as if the signs themselves hide more than they reveal. And it is precisely from these gaps that the mystery arises. Many cuneiform texts seem to contain surprisingly advanced knowledge for the time. Star maps with perfectly traced constellations, planetary cycles described with disturbing precision, and even references to planets that modern science has recognized only with telescopes and space probes. Uranus, Neptune. How is it possible that a Bronze Age civilization had access to such information? According to an alternative school of thought, often relegated to the margins of academic research, Sumerian writing was not just a tool for recording goods or encoding laws. It was the encrypted archive of ancestral knowledge, an initiatory language that concealed secrets too great, perhaps too dangerous, to be openly disclosed. In this context, the most enigmatic protagonists of Sumerian mythology emerge: the Anunnaki, described as those who descended from the sky to earth. These entities occupy a central place in Sumerian texts. They were demigods, or, as an even bolder theory suggests, visitors from other worlds. According to the pseudo-archaeological interpretations of authors like Zecharia Sitchin, the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial beings who came to our planet in search of resources, perhaps gold. And they would have created man through genetic manipulations, mixing their DNA with that of terrestrial life forms. Some cuneiform texts speak of men shaped by the blood of the gods and of celestial laboratories. Just a myth or distorted memories of real events. The tablets also tell of wars between the gods, devastating weapons that evoke the power of nuclear explosions, and journeys among the stars that defy all historical logic. One of the most curious narratives is the Epic of Etana, where a man is described as being lifted into flight by an eagle until he reaches the celestial womb. A simple allegorical tale or an archaic description of a space journey? There are those who suspect that the Sumerians did not invent writing, but that they inherited it. An ancient pre-flood language handed down from a previous civilization that disappeared. Atlantis, Mu, Lemuria, perhaps. According to some theories, this original language would have had vibrational properties capable of influencing reality itself, a kind of multidimensional code capable of shaping matter with sound or intent. And then there are the archaeological oddities. Tablets mysteriously disappeared, texts kept in museums but never displayed to the public, excavation missions suddenly interrupted. Some researchers have denounced an alleged cover-up of information by official institutions. When a translation gets too close to an uncomfortable truth, something happens. The manuscript disappears, the author is discredited, the research funds run out. It is in this tangle of facts, theories, and secrets that the most disturbing question moves. What really hides behind Sumerian writing? Is it just a primordial stage in the history of human civilization, or the surviving fragment of a forbidden knowledge left to men as a testament of a lost knowledge? Perhaps from the dry cracks of an ancient clay tablet sleeps a truth capable of rewriting the history of humanity, a truth that silently watches us, waiting for someone to find the courage or madness to awaken it. The disappearance of Roanoke. It was the year 1587 when a group of 115 English colonists, men, women, and children, set sail for the shores of the New World. They were led by John White, an artist explorer and future governor of the colony, tasked by the English crown to establish a stable settlement on the American continent. The goal was clear: to establish the first permanent English colony in North America. On Roanoke Island, located off the coast of what is now North Carolina, in a region then shrouded in dense forests, swamps, and an unforgiving climate. It was the age of great discoveries, of seas plowed by galleons and caravels, of still incomplete maps, and of indigenous peoples whose culture was an enigma to Europeans. The stakes were incredibly high. Whoever managed to plant their flag on the soil of the New World could obtain wealth, power, and eternal glory. But that colony, which was supposed to be the beginning of an empire, ended up becoming one of the darkest and most inexplicable mysteries of American history. After the initial months on the island, issues emerged due to scarcity of supplies, heads, proper tools, and medical resources. Relations with the local tribes, initially peaceful, became increasingly tense. So it was that John White, just after witnessing the birth of his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in America, decided to set sail for England to procure supplies and reinforcements, a journey that was supposed to take only a few months. But fate, as often happens in the darkest tales, had other plans. Shortly after his arrival home, England went to war with Spain. The Spanish Armada threatened the British coasts, and every available ship was requisitioned by the Crown to defend the kingdom. Joe White was forced to wait 3 long years before he could return to the New World. 3 years of anguish, doubts, and questions. The colonists had survived. His daughter and his granddaughter were still alive. In 1590, White finally managed to set sail for Roanoke. But what he found upon his arrival was something that no military preparation, no geographical or scientific knowledge could explain. The colony had completely disappeared. There were no signs of fighting, human arrests. The fortifications had been neatly dismantled, the houses removed, as if the community had abandoned the place calmly and methodically. Everything was silent. Nature had begun to reclaim the territory, as if the island had simply absorbed the settlement. The only clue, a word carved on a stake of the palisade. Croatoan. There were no messages or calls for help, just that mysterious term. Croatan was the name of a local indigenous tribe and also of a nearby island now known as Hatteras Island. John White tried to reach it, convinced that the colonists might have moved there. But a sudden storm destroyed the boats and forced him to return to England without ever discovering the fate of his companions. From that moment, the mystery of the lost Roanoke colony became legend. Numerous subsequent expeditions sought clues. Some reports from the following centuries spoke of light-eyed children among the local tribes, of English words mixed with native dialects, of European objects found in indigenous villages. Some historians hypothesize that the settlers had voluntarily integrated with the Croatoan population, culturally and biologically merging with them. But others, more grim, suggested very different scenarios: unknown diseases, devastating epidemics, relentless famines. Some spoke of betrayals, murders, ritual massacres. And then there are the even darker theories, those that delve into folklore and the paranormal. It is said that Roanoke Island was considered sacred by some tribes, a place where ancient spirits and dark powers of nature dwelled. According to some indigenous legends, there would be an invisible presence on the island, a force that swallows those who dare disturb the balance of the place. Some have suggested that the colonists fell victim to an unknown entity, a sort of ancestral evil. And what if the word Croatoan was actually a mark, a symbol of condemnation? An even more disturbing fact is that the same word has reappeared in other American mysteries over the centuries. It was found noted on the last page of Edgar Allan Poe's diary before his death, which was also shrouded in mysterious circumstances. It appeared on the deathbed of Ambrose Bierce, another writer who vanished into thin air, and even on the logbook of some abandoned ships, as if it were the signature of something that strikes and disappears without leaving a trace. A coincidence or a clue suggesting a broader, arcane, and sinister connection with the lost colony. More than 400 years after the disappearance of the Roanoke colonists, archaeological excavations have not yet provided definitive answers. No bodies, no certain proof, only fragments, scattered clues, and a persistent unease. It's as if the colony was swallowed by the earth itself, as if something or someone decided that those men, women, and children should disappear from history. And so the mystery remains, a whisper among the trees stirred by the wind, a shadow moving just beyond our understanding. Is it possible that America, from its very beginnings, carries a secret too great to be revealed in its foundations? And is the word Croatoan really a name, or is it a warning? These are questions that will likely never receive an answer, and will forever be shrouded in a thick fog of mystery. April 30th, 1945. Berlin is in flames. Soviet troops are approaching the heart of the Third Reich. In the underground bunker of the Chancellery, Adolf Hitler, along with his companion Eva Braun, takes his own life. Or at least that's how it's been told. But what would happen if that story, so well crafted and widespread, was just a cover-up? And what if the Führer never died in that bunker, but orchestrated the greatest escape in modern history? For decades, the official version has been accepted without too many questions. Hitler would have committed suicide with a gunshot, while Eva would have ingested cyanide. Their bodies would then have been burned by the faithful in the courtyard of the bunker. But the evidence, well, it's fragile and contradictory. The remains found, often identified only through teeth and charred bones, have never been enough to close the case with absolute certainty. In 2009, a team of American scientists gained access to a fragment of the skull attributed to Hitler, kept in the Soviet archives. The result was startling. The DNA did not belong to a man, but a woman between the ages of 20 and 40. Thus, the definitive proof of the Führer's identity was obliterated. And while the world accepted the idea of his death, shadows began to emerge in South America. Testimonies, sightings, declassified documents all converged towards a single disturbing possibility. In the post-war period, many Nazis fled to South America thanks to what was called the Rat Line, a clandestine escape system to Argentina, Brazil, and Chile, organized with the help of sympathizers, members of the Vatican, and even corrupt secret services. In 2014, the Federal Bureau of Investigation declassified hundreds of pages of reports on possible sightings of Hitler in Argentina. One of the files, dating back to 1945, reported a testimony according to which the former dictator was seen in a secret location in the Andes, protected by former SS officers. The document spoke of a house with a mysterious surveillance tower surrounded by jungle. Other reports mentioned an aged Hitler with shaved mustache and gray hair, seen in Bariloche, a quiet Argentine town where, ironically, many German war criminals really took refuge. And then there are the testimonies of former South American Secret Service agents, who in the 60s claimed to have received information about the presence of a man with the false identity of Adolf Leipzig, but with a sinisterly familiar face. Simple, popular legends. Or could those sightings have been credible? Well, according to the new trail followed by investigative journalist Gerard Williams in 2018, Hitler's escape would be more than real. According to this theory, Hitler would have taken off in a military plane headed for Denmark, then reached neutral Spain, from where he would have embarked on the journey to his final destination, Argentina, a country that had provided refuge to many exiled Nazi leaders. Confirming this scenario would be the account of German pilot Peter Baumgart, who claimed to have flown Hitler to Tonder in Denmark, which was still under Nazi occupation at the time. Baumgart was later arrested and tried by the Allies, but his statements have been reevaluated by those investigating the secret routes of fleeing Nazis. As happened with Adolf Eichmann, Joseph Mengele, the infamous Doctor of Death, and Alois Brunner, even Hitler, according to this reconstruction, would have eluded capture by the Allies. The dictator friend, Francisco Franco, would have provided him with a plane from the Air Army, thanks to which he would have arrived in Fuerteventura, in the Canary Islands. From there, along with some loyal followers and his wife Eva Braun, he would have been part of a convoy of 3 U-boats escaped from naval control, allied and capable of crossing the southern Atlantic to reach the Argentine coast. According to an investigative report, Hitler and his wife would have landed in that country, spending the first night at a ranch called Moromar, before moving to San Carlos de Bariloche, in a property belonging to the Nazi ambassador in Chile. There, sheltered from prying eyes and protected by a network of sympathizers, Hitler would have lived in hiding for 16 years, even evading the relentless hunt of the Mossad and the famous Nazi hunters of the Wiesenthal Center, until his presumed death from a heart attack in 1962. It's not just a hypothesis, but a certainty, the journalist declared. He's been investigating this matter for years, questioning the official version that Hitler took his own life by shooting himself with a pistol. So Hitler really survived the war? If he had lived in a hidden villa, surrounded by loyal followers, watching the world change from the other side of the globe, what secrets would he have taken with him? What alliances would he have kept? Does he hide? Most importantly, who would have protected him and why? We like to think that absolute evil was defeated in 1945. It's a reassuring factor, it's true, but history, we know, is written by the winners. And the darkest secrets hide in the folds of truth that no one dares to question. Perhaps out there in the woods of Argentina or on the shores of Lake Nahuel Huapi, has someone really crossed paths with a man the world believed to be dead but who never was, and stopped observing the consequences of his actions, albeit from afar? These boys are 4 mysteries of history. that few have had the courage to tell, especially in history books. What do you think? Which of these historical enigmas struck you the most and why? Let me know in a comment. The Unexplainable podcast is an original format, written and directed by Luca Perella, sound designed by Matteo Di Alessandro. If you like this episode, leave a like, subscribe to the channel on YouTube, or share it with your friends. Goodbye and see you at the next appointment with the Unexplainable.